Talk about a crusher. Yes! Oh!
Are you kidding me?
And gone!
Welcome back to the Schoolyard Sports podcast. I'm the host of this podcast, Lane Frank. We are now on episode 231. Yes, we're 231 episodes through, and I got an action-packed episode planned for you. We had another great week in the NFL and in college football. Get to break down all the things that happened on the gridiron this weekend. MLB playoffs are creeping up on us, coming up soon, and a lot more dissect on episode 231. So let's hop into it. Let's start out episode 231, how we always do, with our headlines. And in the NFL, we had a great week 2, where the Packers and Commanders kicked it off on Thursday Night Football, where Jordan Love upset the Commanders, and Jaden Daniels nursing a little injury right now, but Commanders, tough loss for them. Packers, huge win, moving over to 2-0 on the season. Cincinnati Bengals got delivered a gut punch on Sunday. Now, they won the game, but they definitely didn't win at the end of the day, because Joe Burrow is going to be out for 3 months, everybody. Fantasy owners, look away. For Jamar Chase fantasy owners like me, I need to look away. For Joe Burrow, a guy who has done so much in this league, has so much talent, to again be injured. It's sad to see. So for Joe Burrow to be out 3 months, bad for football, bad for Bengals fans, and bad for fantasy football owners in general. Bengals will be reeling without Burrow. Who do you want to see be the Bengals starting quarterback for the next 3 months? Leave your answer in the comments. The Dallas Cowboys had an action-packed game on Sunday against my New York Giants. I haven't had that fun watching a Giants game in years. Russell Wilson was vintage Russell Wilson. James Hudson provided top-tier entertainment in that first half. 4 penalties on one drive, or maybe even 5 at one point. Russell Wilson, though, played great. Malik Neighbors, who we had in the show a few months ago, he did a great job in that game. So I just think it was back and forth. George Pickens settling to his new role in Dallas. All around, good game. And Brandon Aubrey made his second career 64-yard field goal. There's only been 3 in NFL history, and he has 2 of them. Brandon Aubrey on fire for the Dallas Cowboys and gave them that win on Sunday. Detroit Lions also were on fire on Sunday, putting up 52, something you don't see in the NFL, on the Chicago Bears. Great game for Dan Campbell and company. Now, a coach who isn't having a great time right now is Mike McDaniel with the Miami Dolphins, because this team is struggling, and I wouldn't be surprised if Tua gets benched soon and Tyreek Hill wants out soon, because Mike McDaniel could also be the next one out that door. It's a big issue going on in Miami right now. Maybe it's Chris Greer's fault. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not Mike McDaniel's fault, and it's Tua's fault. Maybe Mike McDaniel is holding Tua back. A lot of things we don't know until one of these people gets fired or leaves, which I think needs to happen in Miami. San Francisco 49ers were a great storyline on Sunday. Now, the 49ers are famous for rejuvenating quarterbacks, or Kyle Shanahan himself is. Jimmy Garoppolo did okay time as a backup in New England. He came over to San Francisco and balled out for them, brought them to Super Bowl. Actually, almost did it twice. Had almost, I'd like to say, 2 stints with the Niners, even though it was really 1. But he came back from being the backup, brought back to being the starter, and did a great job there. Then Brock Purdy stepped into a great role there. Then Sam Darnold was the backup for Brock Purdy this Super Bowl year. And we saw what Sam Darnold has done after being in that Kyle Shanahan system. And this is what we're going to see right here with Mac Jones, a guy who I think is more talented than Brock Purdy, a guy who a lot of people thought could be a superstar in this league after his rookie season. So for him to have an offensive head coach in Kyle Shanahan, I don't want to say quarterback controversy, but I do with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy has his contract, we all know that, but watch Mac Jones go undefeated with the San Francisco 49ers leading up to Brock Purdy's return, and we're going to have a dilemma when it happens right there. Seattle Seahawks, the 49ers division rival, lost the game to the 49ers last week, but picked up a nice win on the road in Pittsburgh this week. Seahawks just look better coached out there. I don't like to say that, but Mike Tomlin didn't look like the better coach on Sunday. That showed with the way Caleb Johnson messed up on the kick return and the way Sam Darnold controlled that offense and the defense played. Seahawks just looked like the well-coached team that we know they are, better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Indianapolis Colts brought some entertainment on Sunday where they lost the game to the Broncos, but then they won the game after a leverage penalty was called on Denver. So the Indianapolis Colts moved to 2-0 in the Daniel Jones era. Shane Steichen, Daniel Jones. I said they didn't have swagger. I just said they had the brains. After that win, they have some swagger to them now. Arizona Cardinals playing with some swagger right now. Jonathan Gannon trying to figure out his way in the NFL as a head coach. And Kyler Murray really trying to find his way back into stardom after the torn ACL, after all the controversies he's been around, after all the people who hate on Kyler Murray. I like to see it. Kyler Murray, one of my favorite NFL players, 2-0 with the Arizona Cardinals. The reigning champions, Philadelphia Eagles, are 2-0 after taking down Kansas City Chiefs. Tough game for the Chiefs. Travis Kelce made the mistake at the end of the game. Tush push, false start or not false start, gets the Eagles over the hump, and they beat Kansas City on Sunday. Last thing in the NFL, on Sunday Night Football, Atlanta Falcons, Michael Penix Jr. offense was stale, but they got the win. 5 field goals from Parker Romo, new field goal kicker for them, and J.J. McCarthy to miss a lot of time, it seems, with a new ankle injury. Tough to see from McCarthy and the Vikings. Great to see, if you're a Falcons fan, getting another win, moving to 1-1 on the season. That's about from the news in the NFL. In the MLB, my Mets are miserable. Now, yes, they are on a 1-game winning streak, but they were on 8-game losing streak before that, getting owned by Jacob deGrom, and once again, doing a common theme of not scoring when Jacob deGrom pitches. Glad to see the Mets still do that tradition, even when deGrom is on the other side of the field. Now, the MVP race is heating up in the MLB. We're going to see what happens with guys like Cal Raleigh versus Aaron Judge, Kyle Schwarber versus Shohei Ohtani. Can't wait to see the rest of this MLB season and how it plays out. But that's about it for the headlines. Still more to come on Schoolyard Sports with Lane Frank, episode 231. Now, Schoolyard Sports NFL Game Day. We have yet to go perfect on the season, like how I said yet. We're going to do it this week, starting off with Thursday Night Football, Dolphins versus the Bills. Bills Mafia all over the Miami Dolphins. And I'm a predictor right here. This is Mike McDaniel's last game as the Dolphins head coach. Bengals versus the Vikings. A bad game right here. Jake Browning was cut from the Vikings after being with them for a few years, and then he went over to the Bengals to be their backup quarterback, and now he's the starting quarterback in this game. Carson Wentz, a guy who he's had a wild ride in the NFL, will be starting in this game for Minnesota. So when it comes down to it, it's not about who's the better quarterback, it's about who's the better team. And I think that's the Bengals right here. Bengals over the Vikings. Steelers versus the Patriots. I like the Steelers in this matchup. I think they bounce back. I think the Patriots are lucky 1-1. I think the Steelers are an unlucky 1-1. Steelers over the Patriots. Rams versus the Eagles. A little undefeated matchup right here. But I don't see the Eagles losing many games this year. This is definitely not one of them. Rams don't get revenge for their playoff loss last year. And the Eagles move to 3-0 on the season. Saints versus the Seahawks. Saints and Spencer Rattler are so unserious right now. That guy does not need to be an NFL starting quarterback, and Spencer Rattler doesn't need to happen. He should be fired out of that quarterback room, Spencer Rattler, because I don't see Spencer Rattler as an NFL quarterback, and that's why I'm taking the Seahawks in this game. Cowboys versus the Bears. Caleb Williams is still a little bit scared in the pocket and still not doing a great job for this team. So for that reason, I'm going to take the Cowboys, who played great on offense last week. Just defense needs a few things to figure out. Cowboys over the Bears. Cardinals versus the Niners. 2 undefeated NFC West teams. But I think Kyle Shanahan has Jonathan Gannon's number in this game. And let's go with Niners over the Cardinals. Chiefs versus the Giants. The Chiefs are 0-2. The Giants are 0-2. Somebody's got to get their first win. And boom, I think the New York Giants get a win and move to 1-2, while the Chiefs move to 0-3 for the first time in the Patrick Mahomes era. I don't even know if they've ever lost 3 games in a row in the Mahomes era. Well, they're about to, everybody. Giants over the Chiefs. Lions versus the Ravens. Lions played well last week, but it's against the Chicago Bears. Ravens balled out on defense against the Browns, which is what they should have done against the Bills. Best defensive performance of the week goes to the Ravens last week after one of the worst the week before. I think they show up with a good defense this week, and they get the win over the Lions. Ravens over the Lions. John Harbaugh, his squad, moves to 2-1 on the season. And that's about it for Schoolyard Sports NFL Game Day. Now, I'm not the biggest athlete myself. I play tennis, but that's a little different than being one of the world-class athletes in the world, a professional athlete. These are the top 5 hardest positions to play in sports. Let's hop into it. I know I said professional, but we're going to kick off with a college thing right here. 5, a college kicker kicking at home for the win. Now, the reason I say at home and not on the road is I think it's actually easier to kick a game winner on the road than it is at home. Because on the road, you're thinking, oh, well, they're going to hate me anyways if I make it or I miss it. Now, if you're kicking at home, it's like, I can either be the hero this town needs or get absolutely slaughtered for the next 4 years. And what made me think of this spot right here was Max Gilbert, Tennessee kicker this weekend, not even doinking, just sliding his kick all the way out to the right against Georgia on Saturday. Tough to see a college kicker at home missing a huge kick because when you're on the road, everybody's yelling in your face. When you're at home, you can hear a pin drop in that stadium. That's why I think it's harder to kick a game winner at home. Kicking is a hard position in sports. 5, kicking a game winner at home for the win. Number 4, being a tennis player, but in singles, not doubles, because that's a little different. Singles. You're all out there by yourself. As a professional athlete, I can't say it because I'm not professional, but I just know from playing tennis, being out there on your own on singles is tough. That's why it's number 4. Number 3, being a pitcher at any level of baseball. Because you can pitch a gem. You can go 6 innings, 18 strikeouts. By the time you get to that 7th inning, you throw one bad pitch, you could lose the game. Your offense could have done nothing for you all game, and it's 1-0, and the blame gets put on you. That's what happens. Pitching, number 3, pitcher, third hardest position to play in sports. 2, quarterback. When I say quarterback, I mean NFL level quarterback. You've got to remember a lot of stuff as an NFL quarterback. These guys are smart to do it. Now you've already got a little CTE, little concussion in there. Later in your career, it's going to be hard to remember that stuff. But also, beginning of your career, you don't have an offensive line, you don't have receivers, and you can feel helpless out there. I can see that in guys like Cam Ward, J.J. McCarthy, Caleb Williams, that don't have offensive lines. They're trying to do so many things at once. They're trying to study for 10 tests at a time, whether it's, how do I go through my pass protections? Which receiver do I throw to here? Oh, well, what play will the defender make? You're learning so many things as a quarterback in the NFL, and that's why it's the second hardest position to play in sports. And number 1, the hardest position to play in sports is goalkeeper. A, because soccer fans are insane. B, because it can always be your defense's fault. But if that offensive player is close to scoring a goal, it's almost going to happen every time. It's a psychological battle to pick which side to go to, especially penalty shootouts. Well, do I go to the left? Do I go to the right? It's all strategic. It's all psychological as a good goalkeeper in soccer. And that's why it's the hardest position to play in sports. That's about for top 5 this week. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, did you know? This week's Did You Know will shock you. Did you know the average NFL game is 3 hours long, but the ball is only in play for 11 minutes total? Did you know that? Leave down in the comments. That's about for Did You Know this week. Oh, this is funny. I'm laughing right now as I do this segment, as I write this segment, as I think of what to say on this segment, because DeSuan Foster, who is the worst head coach I've ever seen in college football, and he's out of there. It wasn't when he had his terrible Big Ten media press conference that I knew he wouldn't be a good head coach. It's when I interviewed him 2 years ago, before his first season at UCLA, and I asked him, what do you think will be the hardest road environment for you to play in this season? And he said, Philly, because he thought about when I was talking about him as a player playing against the Philadelphia Eagles. When he realized I was talking about, his current job as a real college ball head coach. I didn't care about his time as an NFL player. He was like, oh, well, we do good at LSU. That could be hard. Well, we go to Penn State. You'll get excited to see this UCLA brand of football. There was no brand of football unless it was 0-12 football. They had an NFL staff they gloated about. Eric Bieniemy? Eric Bieniemy is what, the Bears running back coach right now? What was he for UCLA, the running back coach, offense coordinator? Eric Bieniemy is a joke in coaching circles now, and DeSuan Foster will never get another head coaching job in college football. But the sad part is for DeSuan Foster is that he got this job in the first place for him. Because maybe DeSuan Foster could have been a good head coach one day if he was ready. But Chip Kelly decided to leave them in a non-coaching cycle time. After the college ball season, after Ohio State's offense coordinator left, Chip Kelly went to Ohio State to be their offense coordinator. Now he's the Raiders, obviously, but Chip Kelly went to go be Ohio State's offense coordinator and didn't want to be the UCLA head coach anymore, so they panicked, and they hired DeSuan Foster, the running back coach, right away. UCLA's a big job. You should have just had him as the interim head coach, and you would have had a great time finding another head coach. I could tell you a lot of people that would want that job and would still want that job. Look no further than USC defense coordinator De'Anthony Thomas. What about Dante Williams, who was the USC interim a few years ago? What about any other guy who wants to be a head coach in college football and live in LA? Sounds like the dream to me. And DeSuan Foster clearly could not live up to that expectation because they were on pace to go 0-12. It isn't about what he did Joey Aguilar, which is messed up in its own right, and he's balling out right now at Tennessee. It's about what he's making Nico Imaliva do, or made Nico Imaliva do, as the quarterback for this UCLA team. That's horrible. Jason Eck in New Mexico destroyed UCLA on Friday night. Utah and Devon Dampier destroyed UCLA 2 weeks ago. We've seen it so many times. We saw UNLV and Dan Mullen beat them. Dan Mullen could get this job even. But for UCLA to be that bad, to where you were losing that badly to 2 Mountain West teams, to a Big 12 team, is a horrible brand of football. This is what we do when we rush our hires and we give people the wrong job in the NIL era of college football, where you can mess it all up. Because in the NIL era of college football, it can be easy to construct a roster or it can be really hard. You can go all or nothing and go for random guys that you think fit your system. Like Nico, they thought he fit their system. But to get Nico, they had to give up a lot of sacrifices. Like Joey Aguilar, like some other players they probably could have used with that money. But now, they got Nico, and Nico's done nothing for them. That's my take on UCLA football. That's my spotlight on the horrible era, an era to forget. An end of an era, DeSuan Foster and UCLA football. I had my mind on fantasy football a lot this week when I was doing my matchups because I was thinking, man, my team played great this week in all my leagues, and I would have beat so many teams in the league. I just didn't beat the guy I was going up against. It's not like I can play defense against that guy and his fantasy football team. So the way fantasy football should work is, and I know a lot of people might not like this because you can't say, hey, I'm going up against my buddy this week. You pick the 4 highest scoring teams of the week, and they get the win. The 4 teams with the highest amount of points get the win. The 4 teams who didn't score that high get a loss. That's how fantasy football should work. That's how you get rewarded for having a good team, not just your win-loss record. Because win-loss record in fantasy football is like a win-loss record in pitching in MLB. It doesn't really mean anything because it's kind of out of your control most of the time. That's why fantasy football, if I were to make a fantasy football app on this, what lane would I take? I would have it to where the 4 highest scoring teams of the week, or if you're in a 16-man league, 8, whatever it is, they get the wins, and the other teams get the losses. And at the end of the day, that's how you find out a fantasy football champion. Now, when it comes to playoff time, things can be different. But that's how I want to do. What lane would I take fantasy football? If you want to say, hey, my buddy, I want to play him in fantasy this week, and I can't do that anymore with your idea, okay, but I think my idea is going to work out. When you say, I put up 170, the guy I played had the most points in the league, but I had the second most points in the league, that's not fair. I think my idea works in that situation. That's about for what lane would I take? Fantasy football take. College football week 4 is here, and so is my top 25 and the hot takes. But before we get to the hot takes, the top 25 got some moving and shaking in college football heading into week 4. Ooh, you can smell that fall weather. 1, Ohio State. 2, Oregon. 3, LSU. 4, Miami. 5, Georgia. 6, Penn State. 7, Texas. 8, Oklahoma. 9, Florida State. 10, Texas A&M. 11, Alabama. 12, Illinois. 13, Georgia Tech. 14, Ole Miss. 15, Iowa State. 16, Utah. 17, Tennessee. 18, Michigan. 19, Texas Tech. 20, South Florida. 21, South Carolina. 22, Mississippi State. 23, Notre Dame. 24, Tulane. 25, Vanderbilt. Let's break it down. Ohio State, best in the country. Easy. Let's skip over to number 5, Georgia. Awesome win last week over Tennessee. Didn't expect them to pull it out, but they did on the road. They're moving up in my rankings. Texas, number 7. Archer Manning is just a head scratcher to watch on the field. They moved down in the poll this week. Texas A&M, huge win over number 23, Notre Dame on the road. Few plays go Notre Dame's way this season. They're a top 5 team. So that's why they're still in my rankings, even though they are 0-2 in the season. 12, Illinois, big showdown with Indiana this weekend. The AP poll is ranked, but not me. 13, Georgia Tech, after they ended Clemson season. 14, Ole Miss. I like Trinidad Chambliss, their quarterback, and Austin Simmons, their other quarterback. We're going to have to see who Lane Kiffin wants to go with for the rest of the season, but good tandem they've got going on with those two right now. 19, Texas Tech. They're playing really good football. They got a good game this week up against number 16, Utah. 20, South Florida. I'm not going to move them down because they have wins over top 25 teams in Boise State and Florida, and you're supposed to lose to a team like Miami and still be the number 20 team in the country. So 20, South Florida. 21, South Carolina. My husband picked Lenora Sellers is banged up, injured, and that's why they lost on Saturday to Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt creeps in here at 25, Tulane 24. That's about it for the College Football Showcase Top 25 Hot Takes coming up right next. It's Hot Takes time, everybody, for College Football Week 4. Let's hop into it. The first one I've got for you, Michigan over Nebraska on the road in Lincoln. They beat them by 2+ possessions. Spread in Vegas, which even though I'm not a betting man at 17 years old, I disagree with Vegas in this one. I think Michigan destroys Nebraska on the road. Biff Poggi, better head coach than Sharon Moore? I think so. And Bryce Underwood runs the ball right here a lot in this game, and they get things going with Biff Poggi as their head coach. His last game as acting head coach in place of Sharon Moore. Michigan over Nebraska. TCU over SMU. SMU is 2-1. They have a tough loss to Baylor, but I think they're just not a good football team this year. Rhett Lashley's a good coach. Kevin Jennings a fine quarterback. But what I saw last week against Missouri State easily made me pick TCU in this one. TCU is a great team. I think they're better than Baylor. I think they're going to do great things in the Big 12 this year. When I look at Josh Hoover, their quarterback, he has a lot of potential, a lot of talent, and they're going to beat SMU after losing to them last season. So let's go TCU over SMU. Next one, another big upset I've got for you. Tulane over Ole Miss. Ole Miss is kind of just getting by in college football. They get by against Kentucky. They get by against Arkansas. You don't get by against Tulane. 2 years ago, Tulane played Ole Miss, and they lost by 1 possession with a backup quarterback. Michael Pratt, their starting quarterback, was out in that game at the Grove, and Ole Miss won that game. I think it's a different story at the Grove this time. I think Jake Retzlaff is the biggest pot of gold Tulane football could have ever found. John Summerall had a good quarterback this year, and Brandon Sullivan. But when Jake Retzlaff was in that portal in August, he went after him, and Jake Retzlaff has done a great job for this team. In just 1 month on the team, Jake Retzlaff already has a win over a top 25 team, and Duke at one point in the season, and Tulane is on a roll right now. So Tulane over Ole Miss, a former SEC champion, beats a team who has never won the SEC in Ole Miss. Texas Tech versus Utah. I got the Red Raiders in this one, everybody. I like Utah, but I like Texas Tech way more. I think Jerry Maguire and Brendan Morton play a fun brand of Texas football, and they get the win over Utah in this one. SEC Showdown, Oklahoma versus Auburn. It was a toss-up for me until Auburn played on Saturday against South Alabama, and they only won 31-15. I think John Mateer is the best quarterback in the country this season. I think their defense is great under Brett Venables. Oklahoma, a serious national title contender. Take down Auburn, who I still think can do good things in the SEC, just not this week against Oklahoma. Illinois versus Indiana, a Big Ten night game. A lot of people like Indiana in this one. It's a home game for Indiana. Fernando Mendoza is good. Signetti. But I think Illinois gets the win here. I think Luke Altmaier is a true Big Ten quarterback. I think Brett Bielema knows what he's doing. He knows the type of team he has here, that they can get the job done. Illinois over Indiana. And the last hot take for you, game of the week, Miami versus Florida. I'm telling you, Florida, if you fire Billy Napier, you will start winning these games. But until you fire Billy Napier, you're not going to beat Miami. You're not going to beat Texas. You're not going to beat Georgia. You're not going to beat anybody. Miami over Florida. And that's about for the 6 hot takes this week. Still more to come. Schoolyard Sports, episode 231. Stay tuned. Now, the best for last question of the day. This week's question of the day is, will we see a team with 3 losses make the college football playoff for the first time ever? I think we're going to see a lot of chaos in college football this year, so I'm going to go with yes. We almost saw it last year with Ole Miss, with Alabama, with South Carolina. I think we will this year see a 3-loss team in the college football playoff. That's about Schoolyard Sports and Lane Frank, episode 231. Thank you for tuning in. Follow Schoolyard Sports on Instagram at Schoolyard Sports. Follow Schoolyard Sports on X at Schoolyard Sport. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review for the best sports content in the world. Be back here next week, episode 232. Stay tuned.